Hi, I am Tanika Combs with God Advocacy LLC, and today we're going to talk about transitioning to adulthood. This is just a little bit about who God Advocacy is. I am a parent advocate of a child in transition. I've also been an HCS case manager, a certified community rehabilitation provider, and throughout my time as a case manager, I've transitioned several individuals from institutional care into supported homes into the community with integrated supports. So I'm also a certified vocational rehabilitation job skills trainer and a job coach and contracted with Texas Workforce. When I think back at my son exiting middle school for the last time, the emotions were strong in seeing my little guy making a huge transition. The journey begins. We no longer look back at the experiences that we struggled from and left behind, but looking forward to the new doors that we'll walk into. During the open door, we look into opportunities that will bring about a host of questions. Questions will be asked. What type of job will he like to work in? What type of vocational skills will he be able to achieve? What does his academic transition look like beyond high school? So as you can see, we have graduated and we are entering into an 18 plus program, working on some additional job skills and job training, working on some more community integration, community supports. So this is our 2020 class senior, Brian Griffin, who graduated in a quarantine state during COVID. So hence there was some regression in dealing with the setbacks that a lot of families experienced during COVID, but we have persevered. So adulthood sounds very scary. So let's talk about what transition planning is actually entails. Who's involved? What does it? When does it start? Who in the community can help? And building your network. Build your family support and have a plan. Transition planning helps kids with IEPs prepare for life after graduation. When the yellow school bus stops coming to the front of the house, transition begins. Under federal law, transition planning must begin at the age of 16. During that time, individuals should start participating in ARDs to advocate and self-advocate for their own transition and their own goals and their own agenda. Planning is about more than just college. It covers job skills, vocational support, post-secondary, and daily life skills too. So this is pretty much a transition line. Transition pretty much starts at the beginning. So at any age, we encourage everyone get on the Medicaid waiver interest list in your county. And by the age of 6, give your child a skill that's transferable that they can grow with. And during the ages of 10 and 12, talk about work and different interests. This is where we start looking and seeing, where is my child's niche? What is important to him? What, or he or she, what do they like? And start to develop and nurture those actual skills. And ages 10 and 12, get them involved in community activities, community events, and just encourage them to give back. So by the age of 14 plus, your child needs to be able to participate in an ARD meeting, which means sitting in a meeting, and that can look very different for many individuals. So whatever is particular to your child's needs and whatever their restrictions and requirements are, you'll identify those in deciding if that child should participate in an ARD meeting. So at the age of 14, they're also transition planning in the IEP process. A lot of times we're in ARD meetings and families don't even know that they've started the transition process. They skip over the questions very quickly. They gather information from you, which this is a very important, integral part of your child's transition, and they should be involved. You should be involved, and the transition planning should be a team effort. So at the age of 14, your child should be talking to your counselors at your school to talk about what those graduation requirements are and what some of the goals and some of those classes that they need to be taking. And at the age of 14 through 18, there's a transfer plan of services from pediatric care to other services for adult medical services, and explore work experience as well. By the age of 17, you need to be contacting your local Texas Workforce Commission for vocational rehabilitation services and get started with the intake process for transitional support there. Your child attending an IEP meeting, what does that look like? Does your child know what an IEP is? Does your child seem ready for advocating for themselves? And this could look so different in all of the eyes of a parent. And so we don't want to put too much requirements and restrictions on our children. We just want them to be able to identify what their needs are, what's in their plan, what are we looking to work towards. And if your child wants to attend the meeting, I definitely encourage it, because they're part of the team. We're planning behind the scenes, but they need to be involved. And what does self-advocacy look like? Let them start attending meetings, talking about what they like, what they want to achieve, what are some of their goals, because after all, they have rights to make their own decisions. So we want them to be part of the decision making and the decision planning for their success. So also we talked about making sure in that transition timeline on getting on those Medicaid waiver programs. There are several different waiver programs that offer a lot of different type of services depending on the level of need that your child has. There's community living assistance and support services, otherwise known as CLASS, which gives home and community-based supports to children and adults with related services, with qualifications with over 200 different related conditions like cerebral palsy, spinal bifida. These related conditions must occur before the child is of the age of 22. And then we have DBMB, which is deaf, blind, and multiple disabilities, which gives children and services, individuals with and adults with who are deaf and blind and have a related condition that leads to death or blindness, and who also have another disability as well. And then we have our home and community-based services, which give supports to families and children with an IDD or other related service condition who live with their families, or they live on their own, or they'd like to live in a group home with no more than 4 individuals. And there's a lot of residential options for HCS. So it's very important that we're not just talking about what kind of needs our individuals have at this age and this stage of their life, but where are their needs going to transition when they begin to get into adulthood and they need long-term care support services. So you also have the MDCP, which is Medically Dependent Child Program, which gives children and families and adults who are 20 years and younger who are medically fragile alternative services to receiving care outside of a nursing facility. It's very important to get these waiver programs because you don't want your child to have to grow up and be in a nursing facility. There's so many supports to keep them in the community with the same level of supports that they offer in a nursing facility. So this is very important. And then you have your Star Plus Home and Community-Based Services, which is your HCBS, which are usually services for adults over the age of 21 to keep them in the community and not in a nursing facility. And typically while you're on other waiting lists that you see up here, your CLASS, your HCS, your Texas Home Living, these services are pretty much more available through some of the managed care organizations. Then you have your Texas Home Living supports. So this gives services to children and adults with an IDD or intellectual disability or related condition who live in the home with their family. And these will give opportunities for individuals to come in the family to support you and your child's needs. And it's funded by the state. And then you have the YES waiver, which is Youth Empowerment Services, which gives home and community-based services to children under the age of 19 who would otherwise need psychiatric inpatient care or whose parents would turn to the state for care and for other services. And this is pretty much for our individuals that have other mental health diagnoses, not necessarily derived by a classification of having an intellectual disability. So there's so many different services out there. So you want to make sure that you start with your local county to see who's offering those services, which in Houston, it's the Harris Center, which in other areas like Conroe, it's the you have a lot of different other mental health authorities out there. So just make sure that you look to find that mental health authority that services your area, and get enrolled in the right interest list for your child. So the waivers and health insurance program. So there's also services for Social Security income benefits. So when your child becomes the age of 18, they can qualify for these services on their own without your family's income being a qualifying factor. That's so big for our families because we go so many years without having additional support services because mom and dad, or dad or mom, their income supersedes the requirements for service eligibility. But once they become 18 during this transitional process, that no longer is a factor because they're their own adult and their income is qualifying them for these services. So with that, Medicaid also offers health and dental insurance for your child based on their need, not your family's income, which is so critical because we know we need to make sure that their dental care is taken care of. And once they become the age of 18, those requirements look different, whether they're getting services under the Medicaid program or other waiver services. Your child may also be able to get Medicare when they turn the age of 18 or older if they've been receiving Social Security disability insurance for at least 24 months. And if there is qualifying criteria that allows them to qualify for Medicare services. So they have to at least be having Social Security for 2 years, and that's very, very important to know. Common waiver services that are out there. You have your case management services, you have nursing services, personal care, respite, which is relief for you in your home provided by someone else or outside of your home. We have day habilitation, which is at a location where they would go and get some other community integrations. You have supported employment, you have employment assistance, you have occupational therapy, you have physical therapy, speech therapy, nutritional therapy, and these are just to name a few. And so it's so important when your name comes up, your child's name comes up on these Medicaid waivers, it's important to know how important it was in the beginning to get them on that waiting list because unfortunately here in the state of Texas, we've had individuals on the wait list for over 12 to 15 years and they're receiving services once they become the age of 32. So imagine how much development and growth and support you could have utilized if these services were readily available sooner. So as soon as you know your child has a diagnosis, it's important to get on those Medicaid interest lists. And here's your 2019, the state of Texas ranking. This is why it's so important to get on those waiver lists because as you see, we are here. This is how the state has been ranked on how they provide services for individuals that receive Medicaid services. And this research was done in 2019. And so as you can see in the orange, in the yellow, those are the states that are top performing. So this research is done by the United Cerebral Palsy and the American Network of Community Options for Resources, the Case for Inclusion, which is an annual review of how well the state Medicaid programs serve individuals with intellectual and developmental and services and their families. This report ranks how individual states are performing with inclusion supports, empowering of our people with IDD in the United States. So as you can see, the state of Texas, we are number 49, one of the largest states providing the lowest level of services, and we are performing at a very low rate. And the study also states that Texas has a wait list that would require the program to grow by 535% on an average to accommodate the needs of the people that are on the interest list. So needless to say, it's very important to get on the wait list and get your child on the list, and we wait and look for other alternatives to support in the meantime. So as you can see, there's other states that are performing very well. And one of my suggestions and my recommendations as an advocate would be, why don't we seek out what these other states are doing? Because one of the things is these other states that are performing at a higher level than the state of Texas is because in those states, it's illegal to have individuals with disabilities on a wait list for services, whereas we're falling way behind the eight ball on that. So these are the state rankings for 2019. And this is HHS, Health and Human Services, response to this study. This year, HHS is developing an action plan to improve the system and the delivery of services for Texans with physical, intellectual, developmental disabilities, working closely with internal and external partners around the state, to improve coordination to make it easier for individuals, families, and providers to navigate the Health and Human Services system for disability services. This plan would drive initiatives for the next several years to improve services for people with disabilities with support necessary to thrive in the settings of their choice. And so a lot of what HHSC has been doing throughout the state has been forming listening sessions with their stakeholders throughout Texas for input. And so if you've ever had an opportunity to participate, it's very important. Our voices are being put out there. We just need to have action that goes behind some of these listening sessions. So stay tuned to see what the state's going to do in trying to improve those things. So 18, an adult, now what? So these are just some things that you need to start when you're thinking about transition. Apply for Social Security. Definitely consider what guardianship options are out there or a supported decision-making agreement. So at 18, your child gets a diploma and is eligible to stay in school through the age of 22 in the 18 and plus program, which these programs are great if you know that your child needs some additional support, integration in the community. Those services are available through your local districts where you currently reside. Also, develop a community network. Find out who those providers are in your area that support with transition, vocational services, the areas that you know that your child is going to need some additional support. And if your child is going to college, then definitely get to talking to counselors over there so that accommodations can be put in place. Just as we had accommodations placed in high school, we need those same accommodations moving forward into a post-secondary college setting. So here's the difference. We have guardianship, you have a supported decision-making agreement. What are the differences? This is very important to seek out what those options are, because you want to make sure that if nothing else at the end of the day, your individual still has their rights. They have a right. And so with guardianship, it's a legal proceeding that strips an individual of multiple or all rights. So guardianship is not the only option. Guardianship is also costly, and you do have to have some support of an attorney to process those filings here in the state of Texas. And then you have a supported decision-making agreement, which is an alternative model where people with disabilities keep their rights, they get help in making those choices, and they get to stipulate which choices they want help with, and they could choose the right family member to help support them in the decision-making process for different things, whether it be vocational support, employment support, educational support. They really get to outline what those supports look like, and those supports are driven by what they want. So there's options. And so here in the state of Texas, the Texas Workforce Commission has a task force, and their task force initiative is this employment first policy. And in that policy, it states that earning a living wage through competitive employment in the general workforce is the priority and preferred outcome for working age individuals with disabilities who receive public services. So this is a big push here that we can transition some of these services to working. So this is a big initiative here in Texas. And gaining work experience. So there's different options out there for gaining work experience, whether it be a summer work program through in your local area, a work experience program, maybe some job shadowing, on the job training, internships, or volunteer or service learning programs. And there's a lot of agencies out there that provide different supports in these areas that can support your individual in gaining some work experiences, because we don't know if we don't explore what those options look like for them. And so the Texas Workforce Commission has VR services for youth and student services. So this gets them help in preparing for post-secondary education, getting involved in employment opportunities through their individualized services. So their services are based on eligibility of your individual's needs and are provided in collaboration with the family, with the high school, with the community college, or their educational support center. So if your child is receiving SSI, and also all of these services are paid through the Texas Workforce Commission. Then you have your pre-employment transition services known as your pre-ETS. It's also services provided by the Texas Workforce Commission, where they receive core services as needed to help prepare for that post-secondary education and employment opportunities. They get some vocational counseling, they get counseling and job exploration, different job training, if it's hard skills, if it's soft skills, what are those skills that your child needs to actually enter into the workforce? Counseling on opportunities for post-secondary, such as if there's a college program that they can qualify, or maybe there's a trade program, or maybe some additional vocational schooling that they need. So those are services that they can receive through the Texas Workforce Commission. There's work-based service learning, which includes internships and on-the-job training. There's training in the workforce and employer expectation, training in self-advocacy and social skills. And during this time, we're all in this time period where these job skills training looks a little different during the COVID-19 era. So some of these services are also accessible online as well. So definitely explore these options, which your vocational counselor at the Texas Workforce Commission could definitely dive in deep and see what layers of services your child or your individual qualifies for. And there's other services that the Texas Workforce Commission also provides as well. We talked about self-advocacy training, apprenticeship programs, and on-the-job training, classes to teach independent living, because as you know, once they transition, we still need to have those independent living skills addressed. And that's an ongoing issue that we need to have services always rendered, and additional training, additional development. And they also get help getting a job. So these referrals are available with the assistance of maybe medical appointments and medical treatments. So there's so many different services that are available. So definitely explore those options with your Texas Workforce Commission. And so here's some information on qualifications. If your individual is eligible to qualify for these services, here's the contact information to reach out, and they will connect you to your local Texas Workforce Commission office, and you guys can have a intake and see what services are actually available for you. So there's other post-secondary options, but definitely explore these on your own to see. They all have different criteria on, what the academic level of requirement is for them to get into these different programs. So definitely there's links available. If you are seeing this presentation, you will receive a copy of this, and these are links provided here. You can click on them and explore these on your own and check what the eligibility requirements are. Let's talk about a parent's perception. So what's going to happen next? Will they be safe? What if they fail? Will they be happy? Will they be bullied? What if they lose their benefits? So these are all parents' needs. These are parents' perceptions that they're natural. You're going to have these natural perceptions on what's safe and what's healthy for your child. But most of all, parents, believe. Disability is a matter of perception. What you believe, you will perceive. Parents don't believe because they haven't seen. Believe, feel sure that someone is capable of a particular action. We have no idea what our individuals can achieve without exploring it, without believing in it. So let's take the leap of faith and just believe. Just believe, look for the supports, look for the services, and help you to manipulate the services and the supports and see what you can achieve through just believing in your child having the ability, your individual having the ability to do something greater. So these are just some samples of individuals that have I've serviced in the past that have some disabilities. So John, we're going to use John because we don't want to divulge his actual name. But John had a summer job. John worked. He earned $10 an hour, 25 hours a week, and he worked a total of 150 hours over the summer in the Summer Earn and Learn program. John's 17 years old and he's on the autism spectrum. So John can follow directions. He can stay on task with a few redirections, and he has some mild quirkiness. He has some outbursts of laughter. He works and he may go off on a tangent and use his avatar voice, which may alarm people because they're like, what is he saying? Is he talking to me? John learned how to use the store's scanning device to track inventory and to help return items to the shelf, get items out of the warehouse at a local CVS in his area. So John was able to do such a great job in this program that when John finished this program for the summer, the manager came back and said, when John finishes high school, I want him to come back and work. And he's only 17 years old. When he gets done with school, there's a position waiting for him. He's worked harder than some of the individuals that they've hired full time that have been working with them. So one of the issues is as a job coach, working with him to stay on task and making sure he's able to achieve all of the directives that the manager sets forth for them. And so during that program, the biggest task that we may had with John was to keep him from opening all the shampoo bottles. He needed to smell all the different fragrances because he was over obsessed with fragrances and the shampoo. So that was the biggest task in keeping him from opening all the shampoo bottles. But as long as he had consistency in his task that he was giving and the expectations were set, he was very, very successful at his summer job. And then we had Stephen. Let's talk about Stephen's summer job. Stephen also worked in the Summer Earn and Learn program. He made $10 an hour. He worked 35 hours a week, a total of 150 hours. And Stephen is 19 years old on the spectrum. So Stephen he plays instruments and he aspires to work in the symphony one day. And he's taking some classes to get his acceptance in a local junior college. So he has some great aspects of what levels he's able to achieve. He loves Disney movies. He loves to talk about every Disney movie. He probably has every Disney movie in his DVD collection, and all day he wants to talk about all of his DVD collections. So as a job coach, we have to keep them on task, keep them motivated, keep them encouraged, and making sure that they're able to achieve their goals and also staying on track. So Stephen also was able to work with the scanning system at the store to stock things on the shelf. We worked on some customer service, putting items back where they needed to be. And the manager at this store was just so excited to have him because he was such a hard worker. And so as a job coach, one of the biggest tasks was keeping him from exploring the lava lamp activity that some of the body washes exhibited. Looks like lava lamp. So just keeping them redirected. So just know that these individuals, they have skills and they can work and they have the right to earn a nice paycheck just like everyone else. And then let's talk about Michael. So Michael is 21 years old. He's on the spectrum and is learning to use his communication device on the job to communicate to his supervisor. Michael works a total of 5 hours a week. Michael is also nonverbal and on the spectrum, and he can follow instructions and he can learn to communicate. So working in conjunction with some other services he had available at the Texas Workforce Commission, learning how to use that communication device to let his supervisor know when he's achieved a task, when he was done, when he needed to ask for help. And so Michael is very systematic, and he follows patterns, follows colors. So when working on this site, there was an amazing staff. Like, they were so engaged and so involved and so accepting of Michael that it just made this job so, it was just a great experience. And not only that, when this was a local area, small little feed store in his local town, and Michael's teacher, prior to while he was in the 18 and plus program, his teacher also used some job coaching, and this was a site that she took him to, and she helped develop this awesome system where she would create pictures of the labels of where things went. So on the shelves at the feed store, she'd have a picture next to where that item belonged, and Michael could look at the picture, he could look at the item, and he could know where that item could go. So, as a job coach, we just spend a lot of time in making sure that he stayed on task. When they get distracted, redirecting, some encouraging words, just making sure that they know that their value is worth it, and we encourage that. So definitely knowing that these individuals can be gainfully employed, and these parents took those perception out. They believed in their children. They went out on their fears, and they said, we are going to explore and provide those supports in place and do what we need to do to make sure that individuals are successful. So there's just some companies that I like to recognize for their importance in diversity, that hire individuals that have a disability, that hire in your local community. So definitely these are areas to explore, and they do a great job with integrating our individuals into the work environment. So self-advocacy starts with believing in yourself. Self-advocacy is believing in your God-given abilities and having the courage and strength to advise others on what you believe will help you achieve your dreams. So this is actually our personal definition of self-advocacy. So this is my son, Brian. He's 18 now. He's just transitioned. And throughout the years, Brian has had this strong belief that he could do the things that he wants to do. So he began to tell people what the desires of his heart was in the middle school. In middle school, he was able to set the standard, let them know, I want to do this. I believe I could do this. And in a realistic manner, the people that supported him always worked and encouraged him to believe that he could do it and to keep him motivated to do those things. So just recently, in a person directed planning meeting here into a new program, into a new area where Bryant participated, he was able to tell the individuals in the meeting, the rest of the team, those jobs that he would just love to work at his favorite places that he liked to go, like Main Event, Dave and Buster's, Top Golf. These are some of his favorite places to go to. So he's like, I could work there. I could do this. This is a job that I can have there. So he realistically gave them the expectations, what he wanted to do, which paid off for his self-advocacy. So as a result, the team found a local bowling alley in our area with an arcade, with bumper cars and everything, for him to go there and do some job development and job skills training with a job coach several hours of the week. So you have to give them room to believe and room to achieve, and never stop the transition process, because every day looks like a new day, and the belief that they have will propel them to the success where they need to be. So parents, keep believing and keep on allowing them to achieve their goals. So these are some resources that can just help support you in exploring transition supports in your area. These are links. Like I said, you'll receive a copy of this presentation if you're viewing this today. So if you have any questions, I love to support you. Like I said, I have a very vast options of services and support. So I am Tanika Combs. I am the founder of God Advocacy. You can reach us online at www.godadvocacy.org. And the direct phone number is 832-509-2230. We are here to help you and support you in your advocacy needs. If you need help advocating for your child in a school setting, that's a great specialty that we have. Transitional support services, we're here to help support your job coaching needs, your job skills training. We're here to help support, and we're here to help connect you to the right resources, the right service providers to help you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for taking the time to see how transition into adulthood could be easy, manageable, maintainable. Is it hard? Are there growing pains? Is there tears? Yes. Keep pushing, and just know that there always is success. Don't measure your child's success based on another individual's success. So if you have any questions on how we can help, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much and have a great day.